Hey guys, what is going on? This is Willow. Just wanted to quickly mention before the video started, this is basically a clipped piece from the podcast I did with Dan. We spent the earlier part of the video talking about Gordon Elliott, but unfortunately, since the time has now passed, more information has started to circulate, and what we've said has basically become outdated. We don't have the time to go back and film another one, which we can apologise about. So what I've done for you is I've just clipped the part where we've gone from the selections, and hopefully you can enjoy that. We can get back to a normal podcast next week. So I'm sorry for the shorter episode.
So we'll go back to the tips now, and hopefully we can, as Willow said, end on a more positive note. Annoyingly, I'd had this horse in mind for some time, pretty much all week. I wrote my preview on the Martin Pipe mid of last week, and I expected to come away with thinking wide receiver was going to win that race before writing it, but I came out with quite a different conclusion. At the time, his price was quite high. It's been cut point by point, day by day. So the price is somewhat gone now. I think it's 12 to 1, non-runner, no bet across the board nearly. And that horse is Gentleman de May in the Martin Pipe, as I said, for Willie Mullins and JP. With Janadil being an absentee, I think I was quite keen to get a Mullins JP runner on my team for this. So Willie Mullins obviously won the Martin Pipe 3 times. Sur les Champs, Dompoli, Kilotarvik in 2011, 2014, and 2015 respectively. And we know that JP likes to target the handicaps. His record across the board is phenomenal. He won this race with early doors in 2019. He had the market-leading duo last year in Front View, and I like the way you're thinking. Although they didn't come with success, it's clear that he likes to have a strong hand in this race. But I was looking at his other entries here, and very little else appeals. So you've got Did You Leave You Out 2 is up there in the market. He's talented, but he's fallen on his last 3 hurdle starts, and they seem to be going over the flat with him. Birchdale's been chasing, Front View's been chasing, although he was last year's favourite. Maybe they switch him back to hurdles. He did have a spin over hurdles recently, so maybe he's one of the more interesting ones. Whereas all these other entries are thoroughly exposed, whereas that is definitely something Gentleman de Me is not. So he was bought for €280,000 after finishing second in both starts in France. I'm not going to express to be a French form expert by any means, but it looks solid to me. If you look at the second run of his in France, the winner has won over fences and has finished second, and then third to Le Berry in a Grade 1 and Grade 1 company. And Le Berry is kind of the horse in France at the moment, while the third from his race actually also won over fences and has also chased home Le Berry in graded company. So they've gone on to do quite well, which bodes well for him. And he was off the track for 460 days before making his debut for Willie Mullins, who reportedly had a little setback earlier in the season, which is why he missed the start of it, hence the late debut. So his first run came over 2 miles at Naas in what was quite a modest maiden hurdle. I mean, the runner-up is with Gordon Elliott, ironically, placed in bumpers for him. So he was of a reasonable quality, but from a handicapper's perspective, it's probably good that he didn't beat standout contenders with a view to the Martin Pipe. So on that card, there were 4 hurdle races run over that trip. So Gentleman de May was 3 minutes 58 seconds. It was 6 seconds quicker than the other maiden hurdle. It was 4 seconds quicker than the handicap, and it was 2 seconds quicker than the rated novice hurdle, which was won by one of the leading Boodles contender, the Druids Altar. And Gentleman de Me was carrying a stone more than he was. So in terms of times, that checks out quite well. He only won by 4.5 lengths, but he was valued for far more than that. He travelled through the race like a good horse, and he finished quite strongly over 2 miles. And Willie said that he hadn't done much work with him before that because of his setback, and that he'd improved significantly for the run, while also mentioning that he'd be more of a Ballymore type than a Supreme, and that he'd improve for going up in trip, which makes sense pedigree-wise because he's a half-brother to the smart staying chaser Adame. So his staying is in his pedigree. So he still entered in the Ballymore, for which when I last checked, he was a 25 to 1 shot. But this race is only handicap entry, and you imagine where he goes will be determined by his mark, which we'll find out in the coming days. And on bare form, I don't think they can be too harsh on him. Maybe late 130s, which would be bang on for this kind of race. So of the 6 recent Irish winners of the Martin Pipe, all of them were novices. 5 of whom had never run in handicaps. So that, again, fits Gentleman de May's profile. And Gentleman de May has a similar profile to Willie's first winner of this race in Sur les Champs. Obviously went on to very good things. He had some, like Deschamps, had some good form in France before moving to Willie. Only had one run for him before rolling up in the Martin Pipe. That was also over 2 miles. And Deschamps went on to win the Martin Pipe as a 9-2 favourite, very well backed off 134. He then went on to win the JLT and finish second in the Gold Cup. So he did pretty well. So of the others in this race, wide receiver's been touted for this for a long time. I'm not going to go massively into the awe of the Gordon Elliott, what happens with those runners. I'd rather not discuss that again, but he's at the head of the market. You have to somewhat question whether he runs. Same with Grand Paradis, who won the other day. He won the race that Blow by Blow won before winning the Martin Pipe, but he got an RPR of 150, which is £2 higher than Blow by Blow got, and Blow by Blow got a mark 144. So based on that, he might be handicapped out of the Martin Pipe, which is limited to 0 to 145. And of those others at the top of the market, I think a few won't go here. So if Gentleman Mead turns up in this race, I think he'll probably end up going off favourite given his connections. His price has been cut point after point. When it was 20 to 1 early in the week, he literally would have been my bet at the festival. I would have been that keen on him at that price, but I still think there's juice in 12 to 1. If he turns up here, there's no way he's 12 to 1. It'll be single figures given his profile. He's a very exciting horse.
Yeah, you've got to be backing those JP Willie horses. I've been backing the JP ones all day long. I lost my champion chase bet earlier this season on Defi Desoy, so I thought I had the chance to go back in and dive back into the race. So obviously the bet's going to be coming from the champion chase. I'd have to say that Chacun Pour Soi is your most likely winner. He's passed every test with flying colours. You know, he jumps, he travels, he quickens. He's everything you want in a 2-miler. But because he's so short, he does leave, for me anyway, some each way value in the race. Looking down the field, you've got Altior. He doesn't really look the force of old. I think if everyone was watching the race, in some way you're going to want him to run really well, but I do think he's a little bit below this level right now, especially as I think they're going to go quite quick, and I reckon he could end up getting tailed off, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Politolog, he'll run his usual race, although I do think he's been fairly overrated. He achieved an RPR of 173 for his win in the Tingle Creek and last year's champion chase. And I think that's 2 flaky bits of form. And that is only £3 lower than what Chacun Pour Soi has achieved with his 2 runs this season. And I think there's definitely more than £3 between him on those 2 performances. So with the old boys hogging the top of the market, I think you need to be looking at the 7-year-olds. And the one I've landed on is Put the Kettle On. I've bashed this horse no end. I think me and you did a conversation. We had a conversation about this on an earlier podcast where I said I'd send to the Mayor's Chase rather than the Champion Chase. But looking at the race now, she loves Cheltenham, terrific Cheltenham form, unbeaten around the track. She'll love the ground. She stays further and gets that, obviously, that all-important Mayor's allowance. I make her a really good bet at the prices, and obviously previous Arkle winners as well have a really good record. She's currently 12 to 1, and I'd be shocked if she wasn't staying on at the finish and could hopefully pick up a place. So yeah, 12 to 1 each way would be my bet.
12 to 1 pokes then. Yeah, to be fair, I've done a few previews, and Put the Kettle On has been my each way pick if forced in this one. I think, as you mentioned, Chacun is going to be tough to beat, and I think he's just kind of a level above Put the Kettle On, but she's got all the credentials to run a big race. I'm glad that they're running her here. I love that they're having a pop. The Mayor's Chase is going to be there in future years, so I think this is the time to have a go. And who knows? I mean, Chacun isn't exactly bulletproof in terms of actually turning up to the track, as we've seen. He's been more durable this season, and I hope to God he actually turns up for the sake of the race. But yeah, I don't blame you. That's not the worst bet in the world. Although I think Jensen Demi's a winner, and you've got more of a play chance. So you know.
Wow, thank you very much, Dan. All right, that is going to wrap up the Cheltenham Festival head-to-head series. Hopefully you all survived this episode, and I hope you all enjoyed it as well. As I say, please comment down below. I'm sure me and Dan will be going through them and conversing with you all. Anyway, we'll catch you next week for hopefully a more upbeat episode.